Hello guys, I think I'm live, and to get us started, please put in the chat box there. Let's see how far afield people are. So tell me your name and where you are watching from. And while you're doing that, I'll introduce the session. So I'm Marc Newton. I am the founder of the School of Photography, and I'm working today together with BenQ Monitors and with Calibrite Calibrite monitor calibrations of equipment and Clifton cameras. And at the end of this session, you have got a lovely discount from them products. All right, and I'll tell you that at the end. This session is going to be called this session is called removing objects in Photoshop. All right, now we're going to look at 3 different ways to do that, because there is not one way of doing it. All right, so we're going to have a little bit of a crash course here. We're going to look at 3 separate ways of removing objects in Photoshop. Okay, a couple of things before we start. We've got hello from Essex, so that's not that far afield at all from me. That is literally just down the road. And we've got someone from Greece here coming in. So yeah, so we are just firstly, you're going to, on your screen, you've got a picture of me, and in a minute I'm going to put my screen up, right? If you want to see my screen for Photoshop, you want to see it bigger, there is a line in between. You just click on that line and you drag it up or down, and that will enable you to see this screen bigger. Doesn't happen on every device. It depends. If you're on a PC, you can do it. If you're on a mobile phone, I don't think it works, and things like that. But if you're on a device that can do it, that's what you do. We are going to do them 3 images, like I say, and then at the end we're going to do a Q&A. So at the end you can ask me questions about Photoshop or anything photography wise if you want to. It doesn't bother me. You can ask me them questions at the end. All right, so there is a few people coming through here. We've got 225 people currently watching, so welcome aboard. Without further ado, I think we should go straight into Photoshop. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to go into Photoshop. Now, the first session, I'm hoping you can see my screen. This is a bit different to when I do YouTube live, because I can't actually see what you can see, but I'm assuming that you can see my screen now, right? So the first part of this session, we're just going to look at using the tools, the general tools to remove stuff. All right, now we're going to use this image here. It's a long exposure picture that I took in Essex, as a matter of fact, and in Canvey Island in Essex, if anyone's been there. And if I just hide this group, that's what's in the picture. Loads of buoys, a boat, this power cable, and it just clutters up the scene. And by using the simple techniques that I'm going to show you, we can remove them like that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a new layer. So I'm going to hide this now, so we're back to the original image. I'm going to click on the original picture, which is this one underneath, and I'm going to click on add a new layer, which is this little icon down in the layers panel here. So when you are removing objects, no matter what tool you're going to use, it's always a good idea to use another layer. Try not to work directly onto the image, because that is what's called a destructive move. When you're working in Photoshop, you want to be doing as many non-destructive moves as possible, because it's very easy to then delete them if you get things wrong, which you can do quite easily in Photoshop. You can, if you're working non-destructively on separate layers, very easy to correct, basically. We've got someone from Texas here. No names though. I've just got from Texas. So if you're putting something in that chat box, you should put your name. I don't actually see your name, so put your name. So I've got someone from Texas, and I don't know who their name is, but welcome aboard. Right, let's go over here then into Photoshop, and I am just going to zoom in by using my navigator tool here. And we're going to start removing these objects here, like this post and these buoys and, you know, this kind of stuff. So over in the layers palette, good idea, name your layers. Double click on the word layer there, and I'm going to name this one buoys, which I believe is spelled like that. Buoys and post. Press enter, and there we go. Right, and so sorry, I'm looking, I'm trying to see what I can see on this side. Sorry, there's things coming through. Right, the patch tool, easy, right? This one is probably the easiest removal tool that you've got in Photoshop, right? It's over here in your toolbox. You hover over, if you don't know what these tools are called, just hover your mouse over the tool and it will tell you what it's called. That one's obviously the patch tool. So I'm going to select the patch tool. We've got this post here. I'm going to draw around this post and including the reflection. Finish the selection, click within the selection, drag it across to an area next to it, and you can see them lines there of the water, right? So what you do is you match them up. You just go up and down, and you match them up, you release, and it patches up that area, okay? We press Control and D, we deselect, and we've got rid of a post. That's as easy as, that's how easy it is to use the patch tool, right? Now, you do need to make sure that you've got certain settings on your patch tool, and that is over in the options bar at the top here. So you need to make sure that you've got this one here selected, which is new selection. You need to make sure you've got content where selected, and in structure you put 4, in color you put 4, and over here you tick sample all layers. Now this is a 1-hour session on removing stuff in Photoshop, so I'm just telling you to put 4 in there and 4 in there because I know it works. It certainly works for things like this. Over in the Photoshop course, which I'm going to tell you about later, we go into much more depth into this kind of stuff. But for now, you want a quick fix. They're the settings that you add into the options bar when you select the patch tool. Let's do this one here. Circle around it, grab it, go left or right. That looks good. Now that one's gone. Grab the patch tool again, grab that one, and this time I'm going to go that way so I can expand the line. Release, Control and D to deselect, and again let's get that one there. Match the line up, easy. Press Control and D. Let's do this one here as well and remove it over to that side. Release, Control and D to deselect. Look, and already look what's happening. It's just really quick. It's a really quick tool to use, the patch tool, and the thing to remember with the patch tool though is it works a lot better on a smooth surface like this. If you've got the patch tool and you've got a person with a tree or something in the background, there's a lot of texture. It's other techniques that you're going to need to use, which we will cover a bit later on in this session, okay? Right, now, so just to speed things up, you can imagine that all of the rest of these are done. Actually, I'm going to show you one more thing, because this happens, especially in long exposures. You have things that go over the horizon, and the patch tool does actually work with things that go over the horizon. So I'm going to just select this one, drag it across. Now, the key to this is that you match the horizon. So we get that to the horizon point, you release, and it's gone. Let's hide and bring it back, hide and bring it back. Okay, easy, isn't it? Let's press Control and 0 to full screen. Now, the next thing that we are going to look at is removing this boat here. The patch tool is not going to work for this boat because it's a bigger object and it's really close to textured stuff, you know, like this, I think that's a jetty that's going out there, and this thing over here as well. So the patch tool is not going to work. So we're going to use another classic removal tool in Photoshop for this, the clone stamp tool. I'm going to press Control and plus and zoom in, press down my space bar and move it to the center there. Take a sip of my blackcurrant juice and create a new layer. Like I said before, when you're removing objects, new layers, always new layers. And even like I was doing before there with all of them boys, you could do each one of them on a new layer, especially if you're new to it and you're just practicing, because if you get one wrong, you only have to delete that one layer, not all of the boys that you've removed. Right, let's click on a new layer. Let's double click on that layer name and let's call this one boat. Okay, now the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a selection, and the reason I want to create a selection is so that I don't put any clone stamping over on this jetty here. So you make a selection so that when you clone stamp, it's only going to go into that selection. To do that, I'm going to use a tool called the polygonal lasso tool, and that's this one here. The polygonal lasso tool enables you to make a selection but with lines. Okay, simple as that. So I'm going to press Control and D here to deselect that, and up the top in the feather of this tool, which is the options bar, I'm going to put 5 pixels in. And what that will do is that will automatically give me a nice feather around the selection. So let's make this selection. So I'm going to click, 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 and this is why I'm using the linear tool, because that area there is very narrow. So I want to try my best to try and keep away from that jetty. So let's do that. Let's come round like this. There is a reflection here, so I need to make sure that that's within this selection as well. Close up that selection. When you see that zero there, not zero, sorry, when you see that circle there, you click on your mouse and it closes the selection. Next thing is to select the clone stamp tool, and that is over here again in our toolbox, and it's this one here. We're going to select the clone stamp tool, and we need to get our options correct, which is at the top here. So again, it's a bit of a crash course. We've got 1 hour, so I'm just going to tell you the settings that are good to use when you're clone stamping stuff on an image like this. You want your mode to be normal. The opacity we will change as we use it, but for now we want quite a low opacity, maybe about there. All right. The flow I'm going to leave at 100%, and I'm going to make sure that aligned is ticked, and that is so that when I take a sampled area and it clones it, it moves it together. Okay, it aligns the movements of your mouse. And then over in sample, you need all layers selected. Okay, so now I've got all my settings. I'm going to come down to my image and I'm going to hold down the Alt key. And I'm going to take an area to sample from, and I think roughly about here will be quite a good area to sample from. So you hold down the Alt key and you wait for this symbol to appear and you click on your image. Then I'm going to come over to where I'm going to clone, and remember it's only going to happen within this selection, and you can see roughly where it's going to be within that selection. Now if I hold down the Alt key and right click, I can change my brush settings. So I want a nice soft brush like that, but I'm going to increase the size slightly like that, and then there, like that, match that line up. And I'm going to just come in from this side very softly like that, and I'm going to do the same the other side, and you can see what's going to happen. Hopefully they're going to blend together nicely. All right, hold down the Alt key, click around about here. This is quite a good place to take a sample from, and then blend in from this side as well. Okay, here we go. And again, and again, and you just keep doing it basically until this boat disappears. And there we go. And it's this top bit here which is going to be the difficult bit. So we just have to be careful and do our best there. There we go. That's blending in nicely, as a matter of fact. Okay, the next thing to do, let's hide it and bring it back and see what's happening. And it's not done a bad job already. But now I'm going to deselect, get rid of that selection and tidy up them edges just like this by pressing Control and D to deselect. Then I'm going to hold down the Alt key again, sample an area, there we go, and blend in nicely like this, just to really soften it off. I'm going to match this, see this line, this white line? I'm going to match this just like that, there we go. And then they've got a nice blue line here, like a darker blue line. I'm going to bring that across. And there you go, really. I mean, you can tidy this up as much as you want as you're working, but that's looking not bad at all. And incidentally, if you want these images to work on yourself, this recording, by the way, is going to be emailed to you. There's going to be a link to the recording. The pictures that we're using today is all in the Photoshop course. I'm going to show you that a bit later on, so you can actually download these pictures and you can work along with me. But that's okay for now. I can see that it's gone over a little bit of the jetty thing here. All right, so look at this area here, and I'm going to hide it and bring it back. Can you see that it's just gone over there a bit? Now, you could leave that, no one's really going to notice, but if you're me, you don't leave it because you're a perfectionist and it does my own head in, but I just have to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask it off. So you make sure that's selected. You click on the Add a Layer Mask icon down the bottom. It adds a mask. And black now removes. Black removes. White reveals when you're using masks. I'm going to select the brush tool. I'm on black as a foreground color. I need to make the brush a bit smaller and a bit harder, actually. So again, that is right clicking and holding down the Alt key, and then you just move your mouse backwards and forwards until you get it to where you want it to be. And then there we go. Look at that. Lovely. And that gets rid of that bit. Now, I'm not sure the resolution that this is projecting and whether you can actually see that, but I can certainly see that it's very, very fine. But when you are removing objects, obviously you need it to be fine, because well, you don't want no one to know that it was there in the first place. So I'm going to hide that boat and bring it back, and there you go. The boat disappears and the reflection of that boat disappears. And that's that bit. The next thing, let's press Control and 0 to full screen it again. The next thing that we are going to remove is this line here, this power cable. They get in your way, don't they? They get in your way, especially when you're doing long exposures, landscape shots, you know, they're going to be there. It's actually really easy to move, but there's a lovely technique to do it where you mix a work path with the spot healing brush tool. So far we've used the patch tool, we've used the clone stamp tool, classic removal tools, and that's what I'm trying to get to you in this first part of this session. And the next one is the spot healing brush tool, again another classic tool to get rid of stuff, but we're going to mix it with a work path. So what I need to do first of all is create a new layer, and then I'm going to name this one power cable, like that. Press enter, take a sip of my drink, and nearly 250 people watching now. Welcome aboard if you've just joined us. Now I need to use the pen tool to create a work path, and that's over here in your toolbox, the pen tool here. Now using the pen tool can be a bit of a pain. It's not something that you can pick up very easily, I'm afraid. You do have to practice with it, but something like this, which is one line, is actually quite easy, and it's a good place to practice, to be fair. So I'm going to create a point at the top I'm going to press Control and the plus sign to zoom in. And okay, here we go. We're going to create an anchor point at the top like that, just by clicking with the pen tool. That's the top of the power cable. And I'm going to create another one down the bottom here, at the bottom of the cable. Let's zoom out a little bit. And what you can see, it's created like a straight line really from the top to the bottom. Now, obviously cables, well, they curve, don't they? Just like this. So what I need to do is create another anchor point in the middle of this and and curve the line. So to do that, you need to find a point that is going to be good to add it to, which is normally in the middle of the bendy, where the biggest gap is, where the biggest gap between this line and the cable is. That's normally a good place to put your next anchor point. So I'm thinking about here, like that. All right. Now it's zooming in time again. And you have to hold down the Control or the Command key as you're moving these anchor points. So these points here, they're called anchor points. And if you hold down the Control key, your mouse turns into an arrow, or your cursor turns into an arrow. You click on one of these anchor points and I can move it about wherever I want it to be. So let's put it there for now. Actually, maybe up a little bit, as a matter of fact, about there. And then these are the anchor arms. Again, hold down the Control key till this arrow appears. Click on the anchor arm and you can sort of bend this work path to however you want it to be. So I'm going to come down and bend it like that. And now you can see that it's curving over that power cable, but we need to see if it's done the same at the top. Yeah, that's not looking too bad at all. I'm going to get this anchor point, press the Control and Command key, and move it across so it's right over that power cable as best as it can be. Come down. Okay, there you go. All right. So that's a very quick description of using the pen tool and anchor points and anchor arms. All right. Now what I've got is a work path. So it's not a line, I've not drawn a line, I've not painted a line, I've created what's called a work path. Now what I need to do is replace that work path with a brush stroke. And this is where Photoshop is absolutely brilliant, okay? So I'm going to come over to this tool here, which is the Spot Healing Brush tool. I'm going to come over to my line. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and I'm going to make my brush, Alt and right click is what you need to do for this. And I'm going to make my brush as soft as it can be, and I'm going to make it quite big actually. So about there. Now I might even make it bigger because I've got a soft edge. I want a nice big brush. So that is the brush size that's going to lay over your work path. Once you've done that, we go over to paths over in your panels over here. I'm going to click on path, and then down here there is a little symbol, and that symbol, it basically says stroke path with brush. So it's going to stroke this path with the brush that you have chosen. In our case, it's the Spot Healing Brush tool. You click it like that, and the line disappears, fingers crossed, because what we can see actually is the work path still there. All I need to do is deselect that work path, and I do that by just clicking anywhere in this panel, and the line disappears. All right, it's as simple as that. It's like magic. Let's go over to the layers palette again, and let's hide and bring it back, hide and bring it back. I mean, it's a lovely technique and it's a lovely tool to use. Now there may well be areas that you need to tidy up. Let's have a look here. Yeah, so you can see that there's just little bits here that it hasn't quite got, and all you do with that is you grab the clone stamp tool, and yeah, the opacity, yeah, let's leave the opacity there, leave all the settings as it was before. Press the Alt key and make the brush a little bit smaller, and that's Alt and right click, and now I'm going to just press Alt and left click to sample an area and then go over it like that, and there you go. And that's just tidying that up. And that's it, really. That's how you get rid of a power cable. Let's hide it, bring it back, hide it, and bring it back. And I'm going to press Control and 0 like that. And let's hide all of these layers. So in the space of, I don't know how long this has taken, 10, 15 minutes, I have got rid of all of that and cleaned up this picture. Lovely. All right. So that's the end of session 1, which was a little crash course, if you like, into the main removal tools. I'm going to shut that down now, and we're going to move on to the next session, or the next part of this session. I'm not going to save that. Uh-oh, didn't want to do that. I'll do that at the end. The next part of this session is adding. I'm calling it adding, right? Adding is as good as removing. And the reason I'm calling it that is because that's actually what you're doing a lot of the time when you're removing objects, is you're adding stuff. Think of the clone stamp tool that we just used there. We actually cloned an area and placed it over the boat, you know. So most of the time you do actually add stuff. And this example shows you a real literal way of adding something that you take from somewhere else on the image to hide something that you don't want. All right, so there it is. That's what I'm hiding here. This was a picture I took obviously in a car park, in an old car park. It's composed quite nicely, you know. I like it. We've got all of these lines coming in. It's got that kind of symmetrical look, you know, except for this thing here. Well, this is what Photoshop is for, isn't it? Photoshop is to get rid of things like that and make your pictures look better. So I did that by, well, showing you what I'm going to show you next. So I'm going to hide this now, and I'm going to hide the color grading, and that's the original raw file. And I'm going to select the image, the original image underneath here. Again, you need to add a new layer. So I'm going to add a new layer here. And the next thing that we're going to do is copy an area of this picture. To do that, I'm going to press Control and the plus sign to zoom in. And I'm going to come over to here like that. And to put it totally in a nutshell, we're going to copy this area here, and we're going to paste it over this area here. Right, that is exactly what we're going to do, and it is really simple. I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool again. Yep, we just looked at it before. This time I'm going to have a feather of 1 pixel, not 5, because I'm going to soften off the edges myself with the masking in a minute. So now let's come over to here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. That's it. And then I'm going to copy this whole area here. So let's click there. Let's come down to about there. Come all the way out. Make sure you've got the light that's coming through that section as well. And then let's just copy this whole area. All right. It don't matter if we've got more than we need, because we can mask it off in a minute. Okay, let's close that selection. I've got a selection around an area that I want to copy. Now I want to copy from this layer here. So you need to select the layer that you want to copy from. That's really, really important. So I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to press Control and C for copy. We all know that, Control and C, or Command and C, and Control and V. If you want an easier way, or not an easy way actually, if you want another way, you can actually go edit and copy and edit and paste, but obviously that takes ages. So Control and C, I've just copied that area, and now I want to paste it into a new layer. So I click the layer that I want to paste it in, and I press Control and V, and it pastes it in there. And that's very small, you probably can't see, but it has pasted it in there. Okay, so now I need to use the Move tool, which is up here in your toolbox. I'm going to grab the Move tool. I'm going to come over to the part that I've just copied. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm going to click on that part, and I'm going to move it across. Now, holding down the Shift key basically makes it go across dead straight. So that's why I'm doing it like that. So let's put it over this image, and we'll put it about there. So we've got roughly the same amount of space each side, because we can blend it in a minute. So let's do that there. Okay. Now, if you want to be crude, you could leave it like that. And if we go Control and 0, yeah, some people would notice and some people wouldn't, but we don't want to be crude. We want to be perfect. So we come back over to here and we're going to adjust it. And to adjust it, you can do one of two things. You can use the nudge tools here, which is your arrows on your keyboard, or we can press Control and T, which is free transform. You can also go to edit free transform, and that enables you to resize and move it about as you see fit. Now, firstly, I think that we need to maybe come across a bit there, maybe do a little bit of twisting of this. So let's twist that selection very slightly. Maybe not, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to press Control and Z. I think it's looking all right at the top, but not at the bottom. And it's looking better over this side than that side. And that's to do with, obviously, perspective. It's going off into a distance. So I'm going to hold down the Control key, and this arrow appears, this white arrow appears as you go over the corners. And as you hold down the Control key, you can actually move it about and warp the selection. So now I can match that up there. Hold down the Control key again, match that up there, and match that up there. And that doesn't look too bad. Let's click the tick at the top to apply it, and that's done all right. I'm going to nudge it down slightly, and again that is okay. Control and T. Let's come up a little bit on there. I mean, you really want to be like pixel perfect if you can. Out there. Let's click the tick again at the top. Yeah, it keeps moving every time. So what's happening here is, because I'm working on a very low, well, so not very low res, but it's a lower res image, the pixels are not clicking in how I want them to, as a matter of fact. That's better. Okay, that's good enough. So what I've done is I've copied from one area, pasted it over here, and then used the free transform tools to merge it, to move it and resize it so that I'm matching up these lines. The next thing to do is to use a mask to blend these areas in around that edge and that edge there. So to do that, we make sure that our layer is selected. We click the mask tool here. We go and grab a brush. Black removes, white reveals. Remember, black removes, white reveals. We kind of come over to our image, Alt and right click, and I can make a bigger brush or a smaller brush, softer brush or a harder brush. And I'm going to have a nice soft brush to start with. I'm going to have a very low opacity as well to start with. And I'm going to try and blend these areas in here. Here we go. There we go, just like that. And see this area here that's like a solid line going down. I'm actually going to leave that. I'm not going to blend that in because it will match these patches of paint that are already on the car park wall. So I'm going to leave that one as it is, but I am going to blend the bottom part in so that it looks like it's supposed to look. And then I'm going to blend this in down the bottom. There we go. And again, I think I might leave this line here. I'm going to blend this in at the top. And I'm going to blend this in down here. Let's have a bigger brush for this one. That's it. Oops, that was too much. You see, I've gone a bit too far there. I'll do it on purpose now. I've gone a bit too far. All I need to do is press the X key. Watch this area here. The X key, it flicks from black to white. So white reveals and black removes. I want to now reveal this layer. So I'm going to come across again and bring that back again. Then I'm going to get the black. I'll just press X. So I'm on black paint. And I'm just going to blend that in really, really softly like that. And you know what? Let's hide that and bring it back. Hide it and bring it back. Now, it's not looking bad at all. Maybe a little bit here I need to change, but let's hide that and bring it back. Look at that. Very quick, very easy. And let's hide a little bit down the bottom. There we go. That is not bad at all, is it? Let's press Control and 0 to full screen it. And there we go. I've just patched that in. I might actually blend that one in a little bit. What's the time? Now, I ain't really got time, to be honest with you. I've not really got the time, but I'm just thinking now that I probably would soften that edge off. This side looks cool, but that outside I would soften off, but I haven't actually got the time, but you've seen the skills that you need to do that, all right? Then you just add your color grading over the top. There you go. We have now improved this picture because that is a bloody eyesore, right? And sometimes you take pictures, you find these areas and you know, you can't help it. It's just there, isn't it? You just can't help it. I couldn't have gone anywhere else in this car park to get this particular shot. I wanted a reflection of this water. I wanted the model to stand right dead center, and that was in the way. But knowing what I know in Photoshop, I knew it was quite easy to get rid of. So it was a no-brainer for me. I just took the shot. That is that one. So I called that one adding is as good as removing. Now, again, I just want to reiterate here, this is a crash course. All right, now you're going to get emailed the recording, so hopefully you can watch it over again and pick up the tips. But this is a crash course. This sort of stuff in Photoshop, you probably would want to do a few times to get it right. Let's go on to the next example here, which is to remove people from Photoshop. Now, this way of doing things, let's just take a sip here, is the easiest way. And that is when you take multiple pictures. So if you are doing street photography, I'll tell you a really typical example of this is that you're on holiday. I don't know, you've gone up London and you want to take a picture with Big Ben in the background, and so does everyone else, right? There's tourists everywhere. So if you took several pictures as these tourists were moving in and out of the frame, you would have enough pictures to mask one out and mask another one out, and then it would look like you've got one person standing there and everyone else has disappeared. So wherever you can, take multiple pictures. If there's people in the background, don't let it stop you taking a picture. Just take a few pictures and then you can mask them back out. You can mask them out in Photoshop. So this is a series of work that I've been working on, street portraits. I think street portraits are, you know, they're just fantastic. They're really challenging. They're very challenging to get a good one as well. And this is like one of my favorite ones, as a matter of fact. It's that stare, you know, someone's just staring straight into your face. Don't know anything about this lady, but she let me take her photograph. And it just made me wonder all about her life, to be honest with you. You know, it looks very mysterious. What is going on? Why is this lady sitting all on her own like this? And it's the street portraits. You put this up against a young person, another person, all the people that you take, it creates a really nice series of work, a really nice body of work. But there's people in the background, and I don't want them people in the background, okay? But luckily, I took another picture as they walked through the frame. So this, obviously, you've got this guy here, and he's going to walk through the frame, look. So now I've got one picture with him in the frame, and this is the one I like. And I've got one picture with him out of the frame. So it's very easy. I just mask through one layer to reveal the layer underneath. Now these are all handheld, so the first thing that you need to do is align the pictures as best you can. And when you're hand holding and taking a few pictures, you're never going to get everything exactly, are you? If you're on a tripod, you do, but if you're handheld, you're not. But it doesn't matter because you're just going to mask them out and nudge it around to fit. So first, you select the layer, the top layer. We're going to take the opacity of that layer down. There we go, like that. Okay. And then you're going to use the move tool and you're going to move that layer around until you get it to a fairly good point where things match up. And you can use your arrow keys to nudge as well if you want to. but I'm actually trying to match up this lamppost. I think it's a lamppost there. Let's come down and up. Yeah, okay. There we go. Like that. That'll do the job. Bring the opacity back again, like that. Select this layer here. Remember, you're going to mask through this layer, and it's going to reveal that layer underneath. Now, masking is a really cool thing to do in Photoshop. On my website or on my YouTube channel, I've got a whole video on layer masks, understanding layer masks, so you can go and check that out. But just to put it in a nutshell, a mask hides the layer that you are working on or reveals it. It's as simple as that. So let's select that, and I'm going to click on the mask, add a layer mask icon down the bottom here, and then I'm going to come over to the brush tool. I'm going to make sure I'm on black, and what's the opacity up here? I'm going to change the opacity here to 100%. Alt right click, move my brush so it's nice and big, and a sort of softish brush like that, and let's get rid of him just like that. It's so easy. It's so easy when you've taken a few pictures. Now, the good thing about this particular picture is there was a section, there was like an edge, this lamppost. So it doesn't actually matter if it's slightly off, because if you match it up to a line or a section, then, well, no one's ever going to notice, are they? So that's that there. And then, of course, we've got this guy over this side here. I'm going to right click and go a little bit smaller. Let's get rid of him again as well. And again, because I've got two trees here, it's not going to notice if it's a little bit off. So he's gone, he's gone. Now I've got a lovely clean image, street portrait, and it adds very nicely into my series of street portraits, and it's lovely. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to hide that mask. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to hide it, and I'm going to bring it back, just like that. Now, it is 8:15. We've got 10 minutes or so of answering questions. Obviously, I've got Photoshop open here, so I can show you stuff if I get some questions and this, that, and the other. There's a bit of delay between you typing in here, and I've already got a question there, and I'll answer that in a second, actually. So yeah, so get your questions, start typing them in. In the meantime, I'm going to pay the rent. Okay, nothing is for free, guys. Now, I am working tonight with, let's go to the promo slide here, cliftoncameras.co.uk, BenQ monitors, and Calibrite products. Now, they're all fantastic products, right? I use them, and you've also got a percentage off if you go to cliftoncameras.co.uk. Okay, so here is the deal. If you want to monitor an SW monitor, these are pro photography monitors. I'll talk to you about them in a minute. We've got 5% off there. There's your code that you need to use. If you want a Calibrite screen calibrator or any of their products, you've got 10% off. It's a good deal, and you use that code there at checkout at cliftoncameras.co.uk. And then I'm going to sell myself at this point in time. I've got a whole Photoshop course. It's 5-star rated, and I don't even know how many. There's tens of thousands of people that have already taken that course and are taking it. Right? Schoolofphotography.com. Go to courses, go to Photoshop, check it out, and you're going to get this in much more depth. All right. It's very hard to teach quickly in 1 hour, but over there you're gonna, you really are going to get it in depth. So it's only off, the offer is till the 19th of April, so make sure you get it in before that date. Right, I am looking at a BenQ monitor here, the SW27, I think it's the C. It is absolutely brilliant. I'm in my home office at the minute. At the office, we've got 4 people working. We've got a videographer there. There's me doing this, or 2 videographers, as a matter of fact, and me doing what I do on my monitor. They're all BenQ monitors. They're all SW monitors. We've got the 32-inch version, a couple of the 27-inch versions, all 4K. They are absolutely, they're an absolute game changer for us in work, because I can work at home here and the colors that I see are exactly the same as when I get into the office, and it's the same with my staff when they're working in the office. They go home and work on their computers and they're looking at the same colors as well, and that is because they have calibrated their monitor with one of them calibrators. All right, I've got one here. This is an older, but it's actually the old, they're called Calibrite now, and their old name was X-Rite, but it's the same company. Anyway, there's one there. Very, very easy to use. It's an absolute game changer. If you want to be looking at the same colors that I'm looking at now, you need to calibrate your monitor. It's an absolute fact. And yeah, go and grab them products. Right, it is question time. It's question time. And we have got a few questions here. Just give me a minute, guys. Sorry, this is not like YouTube. I have to actually just have to look through. So I'm very sorry. You just have to keep me. So it says a couple of people here have asked how you added the color grading. Okay, let's go over to that image and let's open up the color grading box here. I'm going to hide it and bring it back. Okay, so the first, there are many different ways to color grade an image, and again, I show you this in the Photoshop course. I'll show you several ways to color grade images. In this particular instance, it was, firstly, let's hide them so I can reveal them one at a time. Firstly, I wanted to darken down this sort of strip of bright light. So I did that using just brightness and contrast adjustment layer, and I masked it off. It's as simple as that. Then I added an S curve, all right? So this one has been graded using curves. There's lots of different ways to grade, color grade, but this particular image has been done using curves. I like using curves. It suited this image because I wanted that gritty car park look, which is the magentas and the greens and all of that. Well, the green, you know, the greens, them strip lights, they give a green light. Curve seems to suit that. Well, I think so anyway. So I put a general S curve in first. That one was easy, and then I added a color grading curve. So let's open up that properties box. So when you're using curves, you can break the image down into color channels, right? So in the blue channel here, I added blues into the shadows of the image. And then in the, was it in the green channel? Yeah, in the green channel, I added greens into the highlights of the image. And there we go. It's actually quite a simple color grade. It's actually just about having a little bit of knowledge of color as well. But so basically I added blues into the concrete-y stuff. I added greens into the highlights, and you get this look. It sort of looks, well, it looks like it's in a car park. I don't know where else to say, but I've just enhanced that, I suppose. So that's without that look, and that's with that look. So hopefully that has answered them questions there. Let's see what else we've got here. Question from Ed. What if you didn't have a second image with the crowd removal? Well, it would be a lot bloody harder, Ed, I can tell you that much, right? So you're talking about this, Ed. So if I just had, okay, let's hide this mask a minute. So if I just had that, if I just took that picture there, what would I do? Do you know what? In this particular instance, because it's street photography, I probably would have just left it. But you can start copying and pasting areas using the clone tool and, you know, doing things like that. On this particular image, this section here would be good, the feet, because it's quite simply, you've got concrete, so you can copy and paste the concrete over the top. The brickwork, you could easily do that as well. This with the bush, that's going to be hard work, man. This one over here you could do, because you could copy and paste this area and paste it over there, and it's blurry, no one would notice. But the only thing I would say about this one is this bush here, I'm not sure that you could do anything with it. You might be able to take a section from here and put it over here, you know. Yeah, so it would be very hard with this particular image. And actually, Ed, it's good that you brought that up, because, you know, not everything is possible, or it's actually, everything is possible, but sometimes it's a lot more harder than it's worth, and you have to balance that out, I think, when you're working in Photoshop. Is it worth your time, or will it just look okay like this, or do you use a different picture, etc.? You know, when you're taking pictures like this, you take several anyway. Good question, Ed. Let's go on to another one. And we go. Yeah, Anita, there's a question from Anita. That's the same question. So Anita's basically asking the same question. Hopefully I've just answered that for you, Anita. Question from Martin. Could you go through the use of the gradient tool, please? Well, that's easy. So the gradient tool is here. That's the gradient tool. And what the gradient tool does is it gives you a gradient of color from your foreground color to the background color if you've got it selected up here. So up here in your options, so this bar here, this is the options to the tool that you select, and just keep that in mind. So if you need to change and adjust the way a tool works, it's generally in the options bar at the top here, right? So you select the gradient tool. I just unhide this for a minute. Let's put a new layer on there like that. Up the top here, I've got lots of different ways of doing things. So I can go down into basics, and if I hover over with my mouse, it tells me what's going to happen with the gradient tool. So this one is saying foreground to background. That one is saying foreground to transparent. So the foreground color is currently black. Go like that across your screen, and there you go. It goes from black, the foreground color, to the background color here, which is white, which is what I've got selected. If I went to that one there, let's go back a stage in the thing. So now I've got foreground to transparent selected. I go across, and it goes from the foreground color to transparent. That's how you use the gradient tool. Let's delete that layer. Thank you. Let's go on to the next one. Oh, sorry, I've just clicked something. Now I've got it back. Here we go. Could you go through the gradient tool? I've done that one. Question, would you? So here's a question from Matteo. Got Matteo here. Do you have any suggestions on how to remove the red eye effect due to flash? In particular, in bird photography, this phenomenon is much worse than with humans, since the bird's eye are much more sensitive to flashlight. Yeah, they are, and I'm not sure. Do you use flash photography with birds? I'm not sure that's the done thing, Matteo. You need to talk to some wildlife photographers. But to remove red eye, really easy, particularly if you're using Lightroom. If you're in Lightroom, there is a tool right at the top in what's called your tool strip, and it is called red eye removal. And all you do is you click on that tool, you draw it over the red eye, and it gets rid of the red eye for you. You know, these computers now, this software, it's absolutely brilliant. I think you've also got it in Adobe Camera Raw, and Adobe Camera Raw is, you go to filters, Camera Raw filter, and let me just check if you have got it here. There we go. Say it there. Red eye removal. There you go. Or red eye, it says. There's a little video there that's showing you. So there you go. It's as simple as that. So you would click on that tool in the Adobe Camera Raw. You would draw over. This is not actually got any red eye, so it's the computer's just going to say no in a minute. And yeah, there you go. But you would draw over the red eye, and the computer would get rid of it for you. It's really, really good. I'm going to cancel that now. Sorry, the other screen's come up now. Yes, I do want to cancel that. Okay, that's that one, and let's take a couple more questions, I think. There's one here from Anita. What do you recommend for removing, let's say, stains or wrinkles on something like curtains or a net curtain, or when you have to correct the structure of it? I think I get what you mean. So like when you've got curtains and you've got like a fold going down and you might have a stain on it, right? I would either use, so let's just say that you've got a fold that's coming down like that, all right? The stain's there, but up there's not a stain. copy that section, move it down over the stain, and then use the free transform tool to bend the copied selection so it matches around the curve where the stain is. Blend out with a mask. Job done. You might use a bit of cloning as well, but that's what I would do, because it's actually going to be quite hard to use a clone tool, because obviously you've got a lot of tone going around with the curve and stuff like that. So for me, it would be to try and find an area within the curtain that would match it, copy and paste it, put it over, free transform it to match it up. Right. Let's have another question here. This is from Dan, and it says how to add a new, more picturesque sky to a landscape image. Well, Photoshop's got its sky replacement tool now, so you would just use that. I must admit, I mean, it's fairly new. What is it, 6 months, maybe a year? They've had it in there. Lots of people rave about it. Lots of people say it's not that good. I haven't used it, but I've heard some good things about it. So that's what I would do, the sky replacement tool in Photoshop. All right. Now, is there any more questions coming through? I don't think there is any more here. Well, I can't see any at the minute. Okay, so we are gonna leave it there, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to teach this to you. It has been a crash course. Don't forget, you've got all of this stuff here to get your discounts. If you follow me on YouTube or you follow the School of Photography, I don't do these things very often. I get asked a lot to do all sorts of different things, and I will only work with products that I trust and I know, because my reputation is on the line, right? Now, I've used BenQ for years, I've used Calibrite for years. They work, right? So when I get asked to work with them, obviously I do it. So I'm not just saying that. I know it might sound like a sales pitch, but you've got a discount here, and if I was you, and if you're looking for these products, and if I was you, I would use that discount. All right. So I'm gonna say goodbye. It's been an absolute pleasure. Don't forget to come and see me over at the schoolofphotography.com as well, and I'll see you later, guys. Bye.